This is probably my most anticipated figure of all of 2023. The MetaGate G05 Red Fantasy is their interpretation of the Decepticon Shatter as she appeared in the Bumblebee movie. A triple changer that, just to refresh your memory, this is what it's supposed to look like, and this is what his figure is attempting to recreate. So let's see how well did it do. A huge thank you to Showzy Store for getting me this pre-production sample. Help me thank them by buying this figure from the link in the description and use my code GABOTFR in this box up here to help the channel. And well, let's begin with maybe the most important review of the year. We'll begin talking about the car mode because that's how she comes out of the box, I think. I hope. Out of the box, just like their last car bot, the side view mirrors do not come installed, and you actually have to both place the silver sticker and plug them into the windows of the vehicle. I don't mind plugging them in, but I do not like the process of having to place the sticker, and I would like it to come pre-installed out of the box. Anyways, once we finish that process, I gotta say that at first glance, it looked really well. The tones of cherry red really pop out, and we got a lot of accents both in black and silver paint, making it look really close to what we saw in the movie. I unfortunately didn't realize if that's how it came out of the box, but you can see that there's a small scratch in the silver part at the front, so just be careful. I do have some more stuff to say about the paint of this figure, but I'll do that a little bit later on the robot mode. Meanwhile, I wanna show you the blinking lights that are casted in a translucent orange plastic. Also, both the windshield bars and the engine on the front are some of the many die-cast metal parts that this figure has, which gives it a very nice weight, and particularly in vehicle mode it feels very good because being so compacted makes it feel that much denser. And I can shake it without anything coming apart. Very good solidity so far. We have some of those 722 decals around the car mode. And finally, before moving on to some not so positive aspects, I do want to mention that the four wheels turn very satisfyingly, despite not being made out of rubber, since they have to be transformed for the other two modes. And if you align everything correctly, the car rolls quite a bit well, which is surprising because you would think that something would scrape against the table, but no, everything is incredibly well measured. But now let's go to the not so good parts. Being a triple changer figure, they had to make sacrifices in all three modes to achieve the final result. And of course, in this mode we have a few details. To begin with, the tires are very protruding. Also, the rear of the vehicle is quite a bit longer than it should be. I think it doesn't look that terrible, but if you look closely, it can be a bit distracting. Also, the underside of the vehicle is not that clean, mainly talking about all these red and white panels that obviously shouldn't go there. Again, from a distance it doesn't look terrible, but up close it's hard to deny that they can clash a little. And above all, the front part of the vehicle is the one that suffers the most due to transformation. And one last detail I want to mention, the feet at the back won't look like this on the final figure, but can be compacted even more. Now, my figure is a pre-production sample, which is why I can do that, but the final version of the figure can be configured the way you're seeing on screen to better compress the feet on the back, making the car mode look quite a bit better. And before moving on to the first size comparison, I want to mention that the 5 accessories included with the figure do have storage in this mode. It's not the worst storage, and I think it goes well with the more aggressive side of these two Decepticons in the movie, so it doesn't really bother me. And it also comes with a figure stand, that I only mention in this mode because it has an asphalt-like texture, so it doesn't look bad if you display it in this mode on top of it. And now, let's go to the size comparison, where I think that many people, especially those for whom scale is very important, could be bothered in this mode, because the robot in the movie is very tall, more or less between Bumblebee and Optimus. And while the robot scales very well, that affects the car mode, since it is much larger than the other cars in your collection. For a size comparison, here she is next to SH Figuarts Iron Man, Toy World Optimus Prime, with some other muscle cars. Here she is next to Masterpiece Movie 3 Bumblebee, with KO Masterpiece Movie Barricade, with KO DX9 La Hire, with New Age Soundwave, with Black Mamba Sideswipe, with Unique Toys Perukial, and with her first figure MetaGate Haiku. And as you can see, next to all these vehicle modes, Shatter is definitely bigger. It's a shame, but I think that it's completely understandable due to its complex engineering. Someone in the TFW forum said that it was more Human Alliance scaled, so here she is next to Human Alliance Bumblebee, and finally here she is next to Mega Tank Monocrat, with Wei Yang Fighter Scorpion, with Transcraft Bumblebee, and finally with Cyber Era Bumblebee. And yeah, there we have the MetaGate Red Fantasy in her car mode. A very good vehicle mode given the circumstances, and I think that all those small details can be overlooked due to its complex engineering. But anyways, before the video gets any longer, we better go to her first transformation to talk about her jet mode. And here we have the MetaGate Red Fantasy in her beautiful jet mode. And what the f***, this is a literal masterpiece. I know that there are a lot of triple changers out there, but to my knowledge, this is the first one in the live action aesthetic to pull off two amazing alt modes and a fantastic robot. Plus the transformation isn't annoying at all. Yeah, it's long, there's no denying that, but I swear the first time I did it I couldn't stop thinking stuff like, no way, how ingenious! And it results in this beautiful jet mode. According to Reddit, this jet mode is a AB-8B Harrier, and I think it's really well done. And they managed to pull it off by cleaning as best as they could the most visible jet parts like the cockpit, the top of the jet, the wings, and the jet's tail section. And that means that from most angles where you would naturally see a jet mode, it looks really clean and very smooth. However, the bottom part is a little bit clunky. Understandable, it's one of those compromises that have to be made when you're engineering a triple changing figure, but at the same time I don't think it's that bad. There are worse jet modes like MPM Starscream over here. I believe this fits right in the middle between that very Ghibli jet mode and the Ceratoys Blitzwing, which cleans up very nice. And can we take a moment to appreciate that even the head transforms for this mode? That's using every part of your figure in a very smart way. And on top of all that, the cockpit can open. That's just the icing on the cake. How? Also, as you can see, the accessories included with the figure can be stored on the bottom of the wings, making it look even better. And the cannon is the only one that I couldn't find storage in this mode. My sample didn't come with instructions, so if anyone knows where you can store it, let me know in the comments. And now let's bring that figure stand so that we can get this jet airborne. Out of the box it comes disassembled, but it's as easy as plugging these parts into holes. This lower arm can expand, and this up arm has the exact same mechanism so that you can extend it, and it holds the figure with no issue. But before I plug in the figure, I just want to show that there is a little bit of articulation here, you can bring it up and down. And to plug in the jet we just have to remove this panel, and we will plug these two tabs on those two ports. Let's put the wheels away as best we can, and finally we have this beautiful jet mode in air. This stand really adds to that jet mode, and this is what I meant on that Planet X Megatron review. If you're gonna have a jet or a floating tank thing, you should include something so that it, well, floats. And yeah, there we have MetaGate's Red Fantasy's jet mode. I'm truly mind blown by the fact that that very nice Plymouth satellite can transform into this AB-8B Harrier, also very nice. The fact that that huge wingspan can come out of the bottom of the car, and that the doors were rearranged on the top of the jet mode in a very smart way, is just plain impressive. MetaGate, my respects. But before we move on to her next transformation, let's go to a quick size comparison. Here she is next to Iron Man, Bumblebee, Prime, KO Masterpiece Starscream, KO Masterpiece Movie Starscream, with Ceratoys Blitzwing, with Cyber Factory Starscream, and finally with Wei Yang Fire Scorpion, with Haiku on its chopper mode. And look how much better this jet mode looks, with Transcraft Bumblebee and with Cyber Era Bumblebee. Just as an FYI, as I was recording the size comparison next to Cyber Factory Starscream, I had this figure on her stand and she fell out of it onto the ground, but everything seems to be fine. I definitely soiled my pants, but the figure seems to be doing well. But yeah, I am truly astonished. This figure is simply impressive. So let's go to her next transformation to talk about that last, but certainly not least, robot mode. And here we have the beautiful Shatter in her robot mode, and it looks really gorgeous. Once again, I wanna bring up the fact that there are many companies who can barely pull off two modes that look good while having a transformation that isn't a complete nightmare. And here comes MetaGate making an almost perfect robot mode with a transformation that is not at all annoying. Who sold their soul to the devil? Truly, this robot mode is amazing. It's identical to the CGI model, at least in terms of sculpting and proportions. I just love the visual treat that is this figure. It's one of those that you simply can't stop staring at. Yeah, we got some faux parts like the headlights here on top of the chest and that small bit between the headlights, but it's perfectly understandable. I love all the ab detail and even the legs. These huge armor bits look like they would be important parts in the alt modes, but they're not. That's how good this figure's engineering is. We got those 722 decals in the forearms to keep continuity with the car mode, and even the back, even though it has a lot of cable, Bumblebee style, that's exactly how the CGI model is supposed to be, and it's surprising that they managed to recreate it in such a cool way. The only thing that I'm not sure it's supposed to be there is the Jet's mode cockpit, but it doesn't look bad. And another thing that maybe could be different is that these two wheels that end up in the back maybe should be a little bit more symmetrical according to the CGI model. And look at that beautiful head. MetaGate is really good at making live action style head sculpts. Their drift was perfect, and this fembot also recreates her on-screen appearance really well. On top of that, the face is painted in a very nice gunmetal grey, and the eyes are picked out in a very nice metallic red paint with an orange pupil, and I just love it. It would have been a lot to ask for LED lights on the eyes considering it has a wheel inside of the head, but as she is, she looks perfect. Asymmetric antenna and all. And yeah, as I said, in terms of proportion and sculpting, it looks excellent, except for the fact that the ab is a little bit too cubic, similar to Unique Toys Challenger due to transformation, but really it isn't something that bugs me. However, there are a few things about the paint that I would like to mention. The first one really isn't a problem with the figure, it's more just a me problem, and it's that since we saw that Toy World prototype with the red metallic paint, I think it just looks beautiful. And this figure red paint doesn't look bad at all. I just would have liked something more similar to those Toy World pictures, though as I said already, it looks perfect as is, don't get mad. What I don't love about this figure is this shade of white. You see, the CGI model shows more of a dirty grayish shade, pretty far from the clean white that we have in this figure. And the reason why it bugs me is because we have seen other figures do this pretty well. Look how the lighter tones of Zeta Toys Blitzwing look a lot better, and I think something like that would have looked a lot better in this figure. And finally, the vents on the legs, just like their last figure, are not painted out of the box, and I think that if they had painted them similar to this vent on the chest, they would have looked better. Anyway, these details that I've mentioned about the paint aren't that important. The figure looks pretty much perfect on its own out of the box. They are just some things that I would have done differently, and that maybe they would have made the figure look even better. I'm sure some people will make customs over at some point, but as it is, I think she looks simply excellent. And before we go to her accessories, I just want to talk about how well she's built. We got a lot of friction joints, totally solid, another few ratchet joints, also very solid, and a lot of more die-cast metal is revealed here, 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 I think here, 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 and here. But I do have one joint that is frustratingly loose, and that's the waist joint. You can see how easy it is to rotate even when you don't want to, and because it has a lot of weight on the back, it can move on its own when you don't want to, which can get frustrating, so I decided to fix it on my figure. And what I had to do was a little bit harder than I thought, because at first I thought I only needed to remove these 3 screws to reach that mushroom peg, and yeah, the only problem is that you can't reach the front screw due to these pieces right here, which obviously means that I also had to remove this back screw, tear the waist in half very carefully. You don't want to lose these small bits which are in charge of the ratchet joint of the leg, so be very careful there. And I could finally reach that screw. Again, be very careful, you don't want to lose any of the bits that make up the ratchet joint for the ab crunch. And finally what I did was put a small dab of super glue both in the mushroom peg itself and in the grooves where it's connected, so that there's more material and therefore more friction. At this point I put the pieces back together, and of course I started to rotate it a lot so that the super glue didn't dry and fuse both pieces together. And after reassembling everything, not such a fun process, the waist now is a little bit tighter, enough for it not to be a problem anymore. Some people who already have their mass release product told me that it's not a problem in the final figure, but if you have it, just be careful if you do decide to fix the waist joint, because it's a process that is a little bit hard. And yeah, now that that stability problem is fixed, we can go ahead and talk about the figure accessories. We already talked about them. We got 4 missiles, 2 with long fins and 2 with short fins. They can all plug in on the same spot as the jet mode, or we can plug all of them into the blaster like we did on the car mode, which I believe is a better idea. I'll explain why in a second. As for our blaster, you can plug it in on either forearm in a very simple way, and though it looks good, sometimes I think it's not as bulky as it should be to be noticeable in some poses, unless it's literally the point of the pose. And that's where I think plugging all the missiles in makes it look a lot bigger, which makes it stand out more in some poses. And as far as I know, there's no storage for the blaster anywhere in the robot mode. Oh well. And now let's bring back that figure stand to plug it on that back screw hole. And as is tradition in robot modes, the figure stand can barely lift her up a couple millimeters off the ground. Nah, it actually works a lot better for dynamic poses, which as we will see in a second, this figure can pull off really good. Look, I'm trying to stand her up in this pose, but the stand can't really support her, so I think it's also a good idea to tighten that joint. On top of that, the missiles can be stored on the figure stand on these ports, and the blaster has storage too, although it doesn't look that good due to its shape. And yeah, those are the accessories for this figure. I don't think they're bad at all, but maybe it could come with something else. It occurred to me that maybe an extra accessory of a hologram Bumblebee that could plug into her wrist, similar to Optimus Prime's glove, would have been a very nice detail. Oh well, missed opportunity. And now, since the video is already pretty long, let's very quickly move on to Bagheera. Here's Bagheera. Alright, let's move on to the articulation. Beginning with the head, which has a lot of good articulation, because the head is on a ball joint and the ball joint itself is on a hinge joint at the base. That allows the head to have this forward movement if you care about. You can look up this far, which is a lot of range, and this far down, also very nice. The ball joint allows you to tilt side to side, and you can also rotate it 360 degrees. And the antenna can move up and down. These shoulder pads are on ball joints, and they also have a hinge at the base, but that's more for transformation. Sadly, the wings can barely be angled forwards or backwards, but they can actually rotate up and down thanks to this piston mechanism, which is really appreciated. And these back wing thingies can also tilt up and down. And the arm articulation is very similar to their Haikyuu figure. It could do the 360 degrees were it not for these back pieces. The arm is on a butterfly joint which allows it to move across, and we have a light ratchet joint outwards here, and a friction joint up here. Bicep rotation, a single joint on the elbow but it goes incredibly deep, and finally the hands are on ball joint which allows rotation. It can move a little bit in and out, and you also have this hinge that, even though it's a little bit more for transformation, it reminds me of that hinge that Haikyuu have, which allows you to give her sword poses if you wanted to. The index finger has a hinge at the base and a hinge at the middle, and the rest of the 3 fingers are connected in the same way. I do think there is enough space here for individually articulated fingers, but oh well. Ball joint at the base of the thumb, and it also has a hinge joint here and here. You can lift up these waist panels, which allows you to use the waist rotation that, as we mentioned before, it used to be a lot looser, but something that is not loose at all is that beautiful ab crunch. Listen to those clicks and look at how deep it goes. The legs can kick forwards about this far, very nice, and back this far, also really good range. She has a ratcheted split, which could be a little bit better, but these panels get in the way. A thigh rotation, which is very satisfying to use. Another very deep ratchet joint at the knee. And finally the feet can move up and down. It doesn't have a rotation, but the front toes can move up and down, as well as the back heel, and you get a lot of range in the pivot. I am completely mind blown with the posability of this figure. We usually have to pick a few of these features, but not all of them. A figure can have a good robot mode, a good alt mode, but the transformation is a complete nightmare and articulation is limited. Or maybe we could have a nice robot mode, a smooth transformation, but the alt mode suffers a bit. Or there are even some figures that have none of it. But the articulation here is just impressive, not only because it has a lot of articulation points with a lot of range, but because despite having a lot of cable in a lot of parts, accurate to the CGI model, it doesn't get in the way at all of the impressive poses that you can give her. All that coming from a figure with a good robot mode, a good alt mode, a good alt mode, and long transformations but not at all annoying. The term masterpiece has been so wrongly used lately that it kinda lost all its meaning, but this here is really a masterpiece. MetaGate has really made a name for themselves in just a year and a half, and with only 3 amazing figures. But yeah, before I continue to get too excited, I think we should go to a final and quite extensive size comparison. Here she is next to SH Figure Arts Iron Man, KO Masterpiece Movie Bumblebee, Unique Toys Optimus Prime, with the Studio Series Optimus Prime, just to remind you that we are still giving it away, go like that video, with my last review, Studio Series Optimus Primal, with Unique Toys Perukil, just because we mentioned him earlier in car mode, with KO Masterpiece Movie Starscream, because same reason, here she is with Shock Warrior, KO Ratchet and Ironhide, with Mechanical Alliance Soundwave, with Zeta Toys Blitzwing, with Yellow Park Shockwave, with Cyber Factory Starscream, with Mega Tank Monocrat, here she is with Lucky Cat Bumblebee, with Transcraft Bumblebee, with Magnificent Mecha Optimus Prime, and finally with Cyber Era Bumblebee, with which she looks amazing. They scale almost perfectly and you can recreate a lot of moments from that epic final battle. And lastly, here she is with her first excellent figure, MetaGate Haiku, and with another very good figure which we have yet to review, MetaGate Terrorsaur. And as I said, it's just crazy to me that MetaGate managed to make 3 amazing figures in just a year and a half, not to mention all those mini Prime recolors. I am truly looking forward to what MetaGate does in the future, and I especially hope that MetaGate tries to make their own dropkick to have her co-antagonist. Unique Toys, you better do something incredibly impressive, because MetaGate is quickly becoming my favorite third-party company. Oh, well, it doesn't look bad. But yeah, as you can tell, I really like this figure. I had incredibly high hopes for her, and because of that I was really scared that it would really disappoint me. But I can say 100% honestly that MetaGate Shatter is a fantastic figure, and perhaps even the best figure of 2023, at least in my opinion. No, that doesn't count, that was supposed to come out 3 years ago. And I totally recommend that you buy her from showzstore.com. As I mentioned earlier, Showzy helped me to get this pre-production sample about 2 weeks ago, for which I am completely grateful with them. Showzy told me that the people who pre-ordered this figure a long while ago should already have their figures being shipped out and they should arrive before the year's end. And for those who are pre-ordering it now, you should get your figure by the end of January. So if you want to buy this or any other figure from a very trustworthy source, you can go to Showzy Store and be sure to use my code GABOTFR in this box up here to help the channel. Link in the description. But yeah, there's not much left to do than to give this figure her final grade, and I'm obviously going to give her 5 stars. As I said, there isn't a single fundamental thing that this figure fails at. An excellent robot mode with excellent articulation, non-frustrating transformations that result in both a great car mode and an even more amazing jet mode. Yeah, I think that out of the two, I do prefer the jet mode a little bit more. And it's simply one of those figures that, yeah, they definitely are expensive, but that they are worth every cent. Trust me, I bought figures before for more or less the same price that were not worth it at all, but this figure definitely does. So yeah, go ahead, go good. Thank you very much for watching this review, be sure to like if you liked and subscribe if you loved it, and I'll see you in the next review where we talk about a slightly disappointing figure.